On this video, I am going to be continuing to deal with the Passion Week of Jesus. It is Tuesday of Passion Week, and we come to what is commonly known as the Olivet Discourse, where Jesus will talk about the future, about his return, and so forth. So we read, and I'm reading from Matthew, doing like a running commentary. Jesus came out from the temple and was going away when his disciples came up to the point of the temple buildings to point out the temple buildings to him. And he said, "Do you not see all these things? Truly I say to you, not one stone here will be left upon another which will not be torn down." Herod's temple was an amazing building, had been built and worked upon for many, many years. And Jesus is saying is truly going to be torn down. No doubt looking at what happened in 70 AD, predictably, under the Romans coming in and under Titus. So as he was sitting on the Mount of Olives, the disciples came to him privately, saying, "Tell us, when will these things happen, and what will be the sign of your coming in the end of the age?" So Jesus is going to be dealing with two things, the near and the far. When will these things happen about the temple, and what will be the end of the age? And Jesus answered them and said to them, "See to it that no one misleads you, for many will come in my name, saying, 'I am the Christ,' and will mislead many. And you will hear of wars and rumors of wars. See that you are not frightened, for these things must take place, but that is not yet the end. For nation will arise against nation, and kingdom against kingdom." Excuse me, please. It always happens, it seems like. Nations will rise against nation, and kingdom against kingdom. And in various places there will be famines and earthquakes. But all these things are merely the beginnings of birth pangs. That was going on right after the time of our Lord, his earthly ministry, but it's continued through time. And I think you have sort of a, can I say, an elongated fulfillment, starting from the time of our Lord to today. There would be wars, rumors of wars, nation against nation, kingdom against kingdom. There would be earthquakes, and we're seeing that not only then, but now as well. And then they will deliver you to tribulation and will kill you, and you will be hated by all nations because of my name. At that time, many will fall away and will betray one another and hate one another. Many false prophets will arise and will mislead many. Because lawlessness is increased, most people's love will grow cold. But the one who endures to the end, he shall be saved. This gospel of the kingdom shall be preached in the whole world as a testimony to all nations. Then the end will come. I think Jesus is defining what will go on from that time until the end. There would be tribulation and there would be persecution uh, of his followers, and that would be the church. through time, this would happen. And many will fall away and betray one another and hate one another. And there would be false prophets. And there will be lawlessness because the love of many will grow cold. People's love will grow cold. And there will be a hardening of hearts. But the one who stays faithful unto the end will be saved. The gospel of the kingdom will be preached in the whole world as a testimony to all the nations. And then the end will come. The good gospel about our Lord and the good news of what he's come to do in his death, burial, and resurrection would be preached to all nations, Jesus is saying. And then there will be perilous times. Therefore, when you see the abomination of desolation, which was spoken of through Daniel the prophet standing in the holy place, let the reader understand. Then those who are in Judea must flee unto the mountains. Whoever is on the housetop must not go down to get the things out of his house. Whoever is in the field must not turn back to get his cloak. But woe to those who are pregnant in those days, or who are nursing babies in those days. But really pray that your flight will not be in winter or on the Sabbath. For there shall be great tribulation, such as not occurred since the beginning of the world until now, nor ever will. I'm thinking this has a double fulfillment. At one level, I believe it's looking at what would happen when the Romans would come in and the temple would be occupied by the zealots, and there would be trying to get away would be difficult, and there would be great tribulation occurring. And I think this could also be have a double fulfillment, not only then, but looking at the end of time when this same type of thing would occur. Unless those days had been short, no life would have been saved. But for the sake of the elect, those days will be cut short. In other words, God will bring them, the Lord will bring them to an end. Then if anyone says to you, behold, here is the Christ, or there he is, do not believe him. For false Christ and false prophets will arise, and will show great signs and wonders, so as to mislead, if possible, even the elect. And again, I think he's looking not only at the time leading up to 70 AD, but in a double fulfillment through the time leading up to the second advent of Jesus. A pregnant meaning of the text, a double kind of an elongated meaning, if I could put it that way. And I'm telling you this in advance. So if they tell you, behold, he is in the wilderness, that is the Messiah, do not go out. Or behold, he is in the inner rooms, do not believe them. How many people have been saying all along, here's Christ or there's Christ. And he says, don't believe them. That was true going on up to 70 AD, and is true through time, I believe. And as we get close to the end, it continues to intensify. For just as the lightning comes from the east and flashes even into the west, so will the coming of the Son of Man be. It'll be public. It'll be visible. I think he's saying, when I come. He's talking now about the sign of his coming. It'll be a visible sign. It won't be a secret kind of thing where you go out and find him. Many people are saying, Messiah's here or he's there. Jesus is saying, no, when it happens at my second advent, it will be visible. Just like wherever the corpse is, there the vulture will gather together. In other words, if you see a corpse and the vultures are there, that's visible. You know a corpse is there. So it'll be something that will be seen, not something in secret. So don't be deceived to go out and say, here is the Messiah, or there is the Messiah. And then he goes on to say, after the tribulation of those days, the sun will be darkened, and the moon will not give its light, and the stars will fall from heaven, from the sky, and the powers of the heavens will be shaken. And then the sign of the Son of Man will appear in the sky, and then all tribes of the earth will mourn, and they will see the Son of Man coming on the clouds of the sky with power and great glory. And he will gather his angels, or send forth his angels with a great trumpet, and they will gather his elect from the four winds, from one end of the sky to the other. I am understanding this to look at the glorious return of Christ, at his second coming. When he comes, it'll be a visible coming. It'll be seen, and all tribes of the earth will mourn because they're seeing the Son of Man, I think, coming in judgment. And he will send forth his angels and will gather his elect with a great trumpet. It seems to me that the elect are all believers from the first century to the end of this period. Actually, we could have two periods, Ha'olam Haya, Ha'olam Haba, the age that is, the age that is to come. And so in the age that is, it stretches from the first century through this time now unto the end of time. And what I think he's saying is, at the end of time, Christ will return visibly, and he will bring his elect and bring them together and from the four winds, from one end of heaven to the other. And that is almost like, to me, saying the elect will be gathered together to meet the Messiah at his coming, to meet Christ. It will be like the welcoming party. That's how I'm thinking the rapture is. It's the welcoming party to meet the Lord when he comes. And then he goes on to talk about how that you need to learn from the parable of the fig tree. Learn the parable from the fig tree when its branch has already become tender and puts forth its leaves. You know that summer is near. When you see a fig tree putting forth its leaves, you know it's nearing summer. And that's pretty much what happened with a fig tree, I believe. So too, when you see all these things, and not only you see them through time, but you see them continuing to develop, the things he's been talking about, recognize that he is near, right at the door, speaking of Christ's return. Truly I say to you, this generation will not pass away until all these things take place. Heaven and earth will pass away, but my words will not pass away. This generation could refer to those living at the time that Jesus gave these prophetic words, some of whom would have witnessed what happened in 70 AD. It could also refer to the people of God as a term applied to this generation, the church, so to speak, will not pass away until all these things be done. But of that day and hour when Christ returns, no one knows, not even the angels of heaven nor the Son, but the Father only. Jesus has left the Father, and he's speaking of the Son in his humanity here. He's fully God and fully man, but this particular thing in his human nature, can we say, he has blotted out. And so no one really knows, for the coming of the Son of Man will be just like in the days of Noah. when he does come. In those days, before the flood, they were eating and drinking and marrying and giving in marriage until the day that Noah entered the ark. The same thing will be happening. People will be eating, drinking, partying, marrying until this return of Christ happened. And they did not understand until the flood came and took them all away. The judgment of the flood is maybe a parallel to the judgment that Christ will bring when he returns. So will the coming of the Son of Man be. Then there will be two men in the field. One will be taken and the other left. Two women will be grinding at the mill. One will be taken and the other left. One will be taken, I think, into that intimate relationship with the returning King, that is Christ. One will be left to face the judgment. And those that are taken, looking at an intimate, I think, relationship with the Lord, there will be a separation in that day. One will be taken into that kingdom that Christ is bringing. One will be left to face the judgment. So you need to be ready, Jesus says. Therefore, be on the alert, for you do not know which day the Lord is coming. You don't know the time he's coming. But be sure of this, that if the head of the house had known at what time of night the thief was coming, he would have been on the alert and would not have allowed his house to be broken into. For this reason, you also must be ready. In other words, be ready, be alert, be waiting for the coming of the Lord. And that continues to this day even, not only from first century, but even to now. For the Son of Man is coming at an hour when you do not think he will. In an hour when we don't think he'll come, he'll arrive. Matthew is recording what Jesus had said. Who then is the faithful and sensible slave whom his master put in charge of his household to give them their food at proper time? Blessed is that servant whom his master finds so doing when he comes. If you do what the master has said, that servant is blessed when he arrives. When Christ arrives, if we do his will, we'll look forward to being blessed by him. Truly I say to you that he will put him in charge of all his possessions. He will reward him, I think is the thought. And we are heirs and joint heirs with Jesus Christ, the New Testament teacher. But if that evil servant says in his heart, my master is not coming for a long time, and begins to beat his fellow servants, and eat and drink with drunkards, living a life of hurtfulness and debauchery, the master of that servant will come on a day when he does not expect him, and an hour when he does not know, and will cut him into pieces and assign him a place with the hypocrites. In that place there will be weeping and gnashing of teeth. I think Jesus concludes this by warning about a horrific judgment when he returns. So we need to be ready, I think, is the emphasis that he is saying here. Be waiting, be ready. And these things that we've been reading about are like the parable of the fig tree. Summer is near. And in a sense, it was near in the first century and it continues to be near because we don't know. It's always imminent. We don't know when that day will happen. So we need to be watching, we need to be ready, and we need to be obedient to the Lord who has commanded us as his servants, as his followers, to be faithful to him and to be obedient to him.